maybe about a year into the training, when the subject of resonance came up, and the feeling of resonating positively or negatively with something within the body or outside of the body, and just tuning into that, whether it's something in the surroundings or a thought or a feeling, and being able to have a better, deeper sense of what feels comfortable, what feels right, and whether the body is calm and or whether my system is activated in certain settings. And that's really helped me navigate life choices, just even in what to eat for breakfast, to what job to take, or relationship choices, the really big things to the really small things that add up to the big parts of life. I think from class, it was after dropping in and then after coming out, when Deanna asked us to look around the room or sense into the room and see what resonated, what part of the room did we look at that made us look comfortable. And I noticed myself tuning into the bricks of the wall and feeling it calm, and feeling a rich texture, and a sense of connectedness with the texture of the walls, and a sense of belonging in that space, and then also and using my imagination a little bit to think, well, what if these walls were vinyl or plastic? And then realizing that then I probably wouldn't feel. I would be a little bit more agitated in that setting. So I started playing around with those different energies of feeling really connected and dropped in my surroundings with whoever I was around, and also what I was doing, what I was eating, when I was resting, when I was exerting, and just using that sense of, am I comfortable, am I calm, am I dropped in, or am I agitated, activated in a certain setting, and really sensing into that and using it as a guide to let me know, like, what situations do I belong in? Should I be walking through this neighborhood? Is this the job I want to do? Do I need to stop moving now and rest? If I sometimes just sitting on the couch, I might feel really good, and then if I try to do something, I start getting agitated, and I sense, well, maybe that's a good time to rest, or choosing activities or relationships. Being with certain people can create long periods of calm or long periods of agitation, depending on who I was with, and learning to sense in and choose to be with people that I feel more resonant with, and sensing into that, using the body and the deep, using the body as a decision maker in life really helps me choose life patterns and life situations that I find rewarding and sustaining, and it also helps me stay connected with them once I've made my choice. So my name's Andy, and I have been coming to Deanna's classes for about 2.5 years now. It's the idea of somatic integration. Since I've heard of somatics 3 or 4 years ago, it's just been something that's fascinated me. It goes back to many years ago. I remember at a certain point in high school, I was with some friends, and I was just really trying to express to them that I didn't want to live in a flat world. I didn't want a flat existence. And of course, in rural Pennsylvania at that time, they thought I was crazy, but I knew I was on to something. And ever since then, I've always been attracted to any type of practice that was designed to be looking under looking under the surface of life and movement. I've been working out and in my body, lifting weights, running, mountain biking for all of my adult life, and also studying philosophy and spirituality, and looking for ways to connect those two. I've always been attracted to yoga, and I've studied Tai Chi and Qigong and ecstatic dance, and just always very drawn to ways of being in my body that are deeper connected and just create a sense of richness and depth to life. And so when I saw this, and I'd read a little bit of Philip Levine's work, and which is just really interested in this somatic process of emotions and trauma lodged in the body, and I've dealt with some chronic pain in my lower back and my knees, and just also as part of, partially as a way to address that pain. I'd seen a chiropractor for a number of years, and the chiropractor really helped me get out of the pain cycle, but I still felt there was some deeper pattern in there that needed some subtler, deeper attention, and I think the somatic work has helped look at that a little bit more, and understand the holding patterns and ways of allowing them to move, and also learning to approach those areas of pain and holding. In the somatic integration class has been a way to come to those with a sense of curiosity and expansion, rather than an approach to, I need to get this fixed because I'm in pain. And I think that curiosity and expansion is just it's a really sustainable way of dealing with being in a body that experiences very joyful movement, but also periods of pain and discomfort, and not getting too wrapped up in the pain or trying to fix it, but looking at it as a process, and again, that gets back to my deepening deepening the existence, my personal story, and my communal story of being a human, and creating a richer texture to my life story. As far as in regard to the somatic integration class and movement, it's come to me like I've studied other forms of deep intentional movement, such as yoga and Tai Chi, and I feel like the somatic integration really gets into the subtler movements underneath the greater movements, the deep nature of what's always moving in the body, our spirals and our waves, and when we form our macro movements out of those deep movements, our when we run and swim and bike and dance, those big movements, when they're out of line or out of touch with the deep spirals, it tends to create dissonance and injury and discomfort. But with the somatic integration, it's a great way to drop in, and in that dropped in sense, connect in with those deeper, subtler, more natural, the ancient, the ancestral movements, and then learning how to do that on a daily basis and flow from that, no matter whether I'm sweeping the floor or going to work or typing a letter, just trying to reminding myself that I have this knowledge, I have this resource to go back to, and that's a big portion of the value of the somatic integration class for me. So my experience of the class is it's very subtle, and I feel like the words around it, if you're, for someone who might not be tuned into such words as dropping in or deep waves or spirals in the body, could almost sound like you're talking about nothing, because our language is not very adept at describing subtle waves, like when you lie down and sense these. So some of the beginning classes, we were just most of the time just lying on our backs, sensing into movement that's always happening through our spines, or should be happening if we're healthy. And in order to, and so relaxing, lying on the floor, not trying to hold any posture, is a really good way to let go of other distractions and just sense in. And Deanna mentioned analogies such as watching waves on an ocean, and sensing those waves move through the body from the tailbone to the head, and feeling and sensing into that. And then once we could sense into the movement, we can sense into where the movement isn't moving, and see what's going on there. Is it an old injury? Is there a stress factor? Is there an emotional issue going on that's creating us, creating a holding pattern? And then we've also done body scans to in a relaxed setting, when there will be some type of tension that might come up in the body, and as a student of the class, I was pretty good, became fairly skilled at sensing a tight spot or a holding pattern, and where Deanna's expertise came in as she would go around to each individual in the class and help them through their process. She would point out, ask the next question of, oh, well, is something going on there, and does it want to move this way, or is it connected to another part of the body? And then from that question, it would develop a sense of curiosity and see what else wanted to move. So if my hip was feeling tight, maybe it was connected to a portion of my upper back that was feeling tight, and those two areas of the body weren't connecting, or were too connected, or yeah, like I said, I'm really fishing around for analogy and metaphor in this area to actually describe the process of what happens. It's the hardest part to describe for me is what actually happens in the class. It's so subtle, but it's also very natural and very instinctual and very primal. It takes a childlike curiosity in some ways. I think when we're small children, we're really good at, and we have no other agenda in life, nothing to worry about, nothing but time, and we sense into our bodies and figure out how each joint works, how the fingers work, and what it feels like to be human, how it feels to roll across the floor. And then as we get busier and becoming adults, we kind of forget how to explore those really subtle ways of those those ways of being, maybe they aren't so subtle, and and it's easy to only understand things on a larger motion, like going to a weightlifting class and learning how to move a weight from point A to point B, but sensing inside what's going on, the deep movements, it takes time. The dropping in is a time out of time to go deep within the body and sense from the inside out what is actually happening on a deeper level. What it actually feels like to be a human from inside the body, how the breath moves, how the joints are connected, how our nervous system, our sense of moods are actually working. I think we do have some phrases in our language that talk about such things like a gut feeling, or my heart tells me to do this, but I don't think our language really senses into what it actually feels like when your gut tells you to do something. And this in this type of work, it really gets into building the language within the body to be able to read the body and understand what it means when you have a gut feeling. Like when I decide suddenly, if I think I'm going to go to a certain event and then all of a sudden I get a feeling that I shouldn't go there, what exactly is that telling me to do? Maybe when I step toward the door that I get a certain sense of heaviness or a sense of stress, and how would I actually, and in the class, I feel like the exercises when we're just lying on the floor, just paying attention to how our bodies feel as we allow certain feelings to exist, a feeling of tightness, a feeling of stress, and as we just sense how that is, and if we subtly move a certain way, we might feel ease. If we move another way, we might feel agitation, and using those exercises to really develop a language between the conscious mind, the decision maker, and the body, the senses and the inner senses, and allowing those inner senses to help me make decisions through life. And I think during the class, by being able to drop in and relax and pay attention, those are what builds those skills. When I came to the class, I realized that some of the things that Deanna would ask us to pay attention to, such as waves through the body, I had somewhat of a language for this because I've received Cranio Sacral treatments, which talk about the movement, natural movements through the spine. So I had some literacy in the subject that I was able to reach out and experience. And I was thinking about, if I had no idea what this meant, it really takes a leap of courage to sense something that we've never sensed before, don't have words for. And even though from the outside it might just look like you're lying on your back on the floor for an hour doing nothing, and being asked to sense things in the body, such as a tightness or a wave or a spiral or a connection, a disconnection, the weight, the connection to the floor. It takes, I know that if I didn't have any previous language for that coming into these classes, it would take a bit of a leap of faith to be able to understand that, and that's why I think coming in, it does take a bit of, it takes some courage and it takes some humility to face some questions that you might not have answers for right away, and it takes a willingness just to let go of expectations, I think, and just be open to experiencing things about yourself that you may never have thought to experience before, or maybe have many years ago early in life and haven't given that any attention throughout adult life, and at this point it's a chance to come back in and explore something new. I know in class a couple times Deanna has used the phrase that we don't even know what our bodies are, we don't even know what we are, and in regard to that, it's just this type of work is, I don't think I'll ever know what I am, but this type of work allows me to have a bigger story about my existence in this world.